A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program at 6 after 8 o'clock to our valued listeners and viewers, of course, but also to you, Septi Bukala, founder of Seeza Tourism Growth Network, also the acting chair of the TBC SA Tourism Growth and Transformation Committee. Welcome to the program. And I guess I was about to say that September must be an exceptionally busy time for you. But as far as people involved in tourism in South Africa, I guess the entire year is about work, 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 and being prepared for local and international tourism. A very good morning and welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Good morning to you too, and good morning to your listeners, and thank you for having me. Yes, September, of course, is the month that world over, not just in South Africa, we mark the importance of tourism. But you are correct, throughout the year, for us, it's work, driving tourism both domestically and internationally. We clearly take a pause in September to mark the importance of this sector across the world and in South Africa, of course.
We'll get to what's going to be happening in South Africa regarding this very special month, but we'll also look at the issue globally. But we need to touch on just how crippling the tourism sector, not only the tourism sector, but the rest of South Africa was crippled during the lockdown. And I know that the tourism sector especially worked really hard, rallied and did everything they possibly could to try and get the tourism sector, local businesses, hospitality industry up and running, and to try and get people back into their jobs and put food on their table, because we were reeling during lockdown, were we not?
Yes, indeed. I mean, in South Africa, as around the world, tourism was really the hardest hit by the ravages of COVID-19, as we saw countries shut borders and restrict movement of persons both within the country and across borders. So we were really among those sectors of any economy around us that were hardest hit. With the consequences that you have highlighted in job losses and losses of livelihoods and many closures of businesses. But a silver lining, perhaps, if there was ever one, in the South African case, is that two things actually happened as a result of COVID-19. One, we saw an unprecedented pulling together of the sector to find solutions to respond to COVID-19. So in a crisis and difficult situation, we really saw the sector work together in ways you hadn't seen before, and we hope that that will continue, beyond COVID, that we will keep that. And also, we saw a rise, perhaps like we haven't seen before, of domestic travel and tourism. The South African travel and tourism sector has, always been perhaps overly oriented towards international inbound travel. But now with borders closed and, no planes in the air, the focus had to be on domestic travel. And I think that we have seen an uptick in that. And we hope that that will be sustained going forward, because domestic travel should form the base for our travel sector. And international travel should be a cherry on top, so to speak. So we hope that that will be sustained going forward.
So my one concern about domestic travel being on the uptake, that's absolutely great. We need to enjoy and appreciate our beautiful country and continue to support the tourism industry, because that does create more and more jobs. Would you say that we're getting there as far as pre-COVID tourism figures are concerned, or do we still have a long haul, really a long haul ahead of us? Is there still lots and lots of promotional work and hard work that needs to be put into this sector to get back to pre-COVID levels?
Look, I think that's an important question, and I think there's a number of factors that would really speak to or contribute to how fast the recovery is. Firstly, of course, we understand that economically the average person is struggling. There's a lot of job losses. Load shedding is not helping. So the economy is struggling. And when the economy struggles, generally, consumers, because travelers are consumers, struggle. And so that does have an effect. And so the longer it takes for the economy to regain its strength, the longer the impact will be in terms of numbers that we see traveling domestically. So that's the economy generally is one factor. But I think the other factor, is sector specific. That is in relation to tourism, and that is the extent to which we, as the tourism sector, respond to the needs of the domestic traveler. Because as I said earlier, our travel sector here was largely geared towards the needs and the preferences of the international traveler. So we really need to, while we continue to focus on bringing in inbound travelers and tourists, we really need to also at the same time increase our focus on trying to understand the preferences and the needs of the domestic traveler and responding to those in terms of the products that we make available, in terms of the promotional campaigns that we run, and indeed in terms of the infrastructure and price points that we offer in the market. So there's a lot of work to be done in order for us to see the acceleration of domestic travel. And the pace will be determined by the pace at which we move in addressing those issues that are within our control as a sector. And if we are successful, then we probably will see a much quicker recovery and a much bigger acceleration in domestic travel.
So, Septi, I, as a consumer or a domestic traveler, I'm faced with a couple of challenges, and I speak on behalf of South African citizenry. The issue here is, and this doesn't only apply to domestic tourism, which we are wanting undoubtedly to promote in a very big way, because local is lekker, and it does turn the economy around, does it not? But there are a couple of challenges here. For example, when you make, and we know that this is also due to the fuel crisis and the price of fuel. And obviously, as you and I speak, we are told that Cape Town International is assuring the general public that they do have enough fuel, and travelers won't be stranded for some reason or the other. A shipment of fuel is stranded, or has been stranded, or there's been something wrong with the shipment of fuel on its way to Cape Town. They've put out a notice reassuring travelers that they won't be stuck. They have fuel, flight fuel for at least the next week. But those type of messages are negative. They do kind of challenge us as travelers, and you're not sure whether you should go ahead and make bookings or not. That's the one issue. The other issue is ticket pricing. People would opt to rather use air travel because of the speed of how they reach their destination, and avoid road travel because we know the condition of roads are not great, and we know that we have one of the worst accident rates in the world, very especially Durban and Cape Town routes. So does the travel industry have any clout as far as ticket pricing is concerned, air travel tickets? Because when you compare the tickets to perhaps Zanzibar or Dubai, Turkey, as compared to Johannesburg to Cape Town, it's almost equivalent. And then here, local people are then thinking to themselves, I'm spending X amount of money. Why should I go to Cape Town when the tickets are so expensive? I'd rather go to Zanzibar. I'd rather go to the Middle East. I'd rather go to Turkey, etc. So is this in your, sphere of control to perhaps do something to make it more affordable to locals?
Well, look, I mean, you're raising a number of issues there, all of which are obviously important. If I just could start with the issue of the uncertainty around the availability of fuel that you started with. I mean, that's a critical issue. I remember some time back, I can't remember exactly which month, there was a huge concern about the availability of jet fuel at OR Tambo International Airport.
That was a few months ago. You're right.
Yeah, that's right. When that was the case, our associations, when I say our associations, I'm talking about those affiliated to the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, rallied together and worked with our airport authorities, AXA, and others, to deal with that issue. And they came out to the market to reassure the market that there was no issue, at least no long-term issue in terms of availability and sustainability of supplies, of fuel supplies. I recall at the time, some, carriers from the US had to reroute to West Africa to stop over and refuel. But I think that issue was addressed. And I think, in the context of what's going on in the world, those issues will crop up from time to time. And, some of them to a certain extent are outside of our control. But I think, that past experience indicated that our authorities are very quick to jump to the issue when it arises, our authorities, both in the public and private sector. So we just can only, remain optimistic. Of course, the price of petrol is not helping. I mean, we are currently experiencing a very high petrol price. And for those of our domestic travelers who prefer, to travel by road, use own transport, drive around their beautiful country, that is a challenge. And unfortunately, I guess, that is due to circumstances beyond our control, driven, by, among others, the war between Russia and Ukraine at the moment. So that was the one issue that you raised. In terms of pricing, this is an issue that has been, dealt with our domestic airlines. And I recall again, we have had, of course, the unfortunate situation of the collapse of a number of carriers domestically, Comair, which operated Bukula and British Airways, Mango, which is the other one, SAX. I'm forgetting the name. So we've lost a number of carriers domestically. And because of that, the supply has been significantly reduced at a time when we are seeing an uptake in demand. And so that has had a direct impact on pricing, which is unfortunate. And I think that, the engagement, again, with our partners in the aviation industry has been to say, do not capitalize on this situation and increase your prices, because we are really all working together to drive the growth of domestic tourism. Their defense, which again is understandably because they are also businesses, they have to operate, profitably. Is, look, we use dynamic pricing, and so the earlier you book your travel, the more affordable it will be, and the later you book, of course, the more expensive it will be. It puts us at a disadvantage if long haul travel, such as to the destinations that you've mentioned, Zanzibar, Dubai, and others, is cheaper than domestic travel, because what it does is that it encourages our locals to stick to travel to beyond our borders, which entirely they are right to do. But we're really, as an industry, and we're having this conversation all the time. Just a couple of weeks, 2 weeks back, we had our inaugural tourism leadership conference in Sun City, and these are some of the issues that we really put on the table to say, how do we work together to make sure that we soften the blow on the traveling public, and thereby increase domestic travel.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to please bear with us for a minute or two, if you don't mind. I have a few more questions for you. And of course, we need to also ask you what's in store for Tourism Month in our country. We need to pay the rent, so please, will you just be patient for at least another minute or two?
Yes, ma'am.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of black seed oil being applied by my nani. Now I'm using tib black seed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like tib black seed. You can find tib black seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
Devastating floods in Pakistan have washed away villages, claimed the lives of more than 1,000 people, damaged nearly 1 million homes, and left over 33 million people in desperate need of help. As the catastrophe unfolds, Islamic Relief is on the ground, reaching people with life-saving aid. Our team are working tirelessly to deliver food and shelter. Your support is urgently needed now to help save more lives. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Ah, the kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning or for that late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating, and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, Now We Cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity.
Reconnecting with my kindred sister, Nadima.
I went to Khost province and I met with the municipality leaders. We had the chance to meet with the general director for education. I met with community leaders in Logar, in Wardak. So they're all very supportive. They have opened the doors. Well, they're not their doors. It's the doors of the people of Afghanistan. But now they're positioned to lead some of these communities. And they have a good vision of how the direction of the women will move forward, especially in terms of health and education. But now, how we provide support for this? How can these girls be picked up? There's no fuel. There's no money for the food. So they've come to me and shared all this with me. And now they're like, Nadima, now go get funds for this.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity. Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
The time is exactly 25 after 8 o'clock. This is News and Views with me, Julie Ali, right here on Salam Media. We're talking with our guest from the Tourism Board, and that, of course, is you, Septi Bukula, founder of Seeza Tourism Growth Network and acting chair of the TBCSA Tourism Growth and Transformation Committee. Back to local is lekker. We have to encourage the locals to travel our beautiful country, but we come up with another challenge, Septi. I'm sure this has been raised at your conferences as well, is very especially at all the different national parks and key areas like Cape Town, etc. These hotels, guest houses, B&Bs charge top dollar. They quote their prices in US dollars or British pounds. That makes it totally unaffordable for us as local tourists. Is there anything in place to identify yourself as a local and then get local rates? Because I do know that a similar plan is in place at certain overseas destinations. If you are an overseas tourist, you get charged overseas rates, and their locals enjoy a lower local rate.
Well, look, in July, at the beginning of July, excuse me, I had the privilege of traveling to Egypt, and as an African, not even as an Egyptian, as an African, I was offered an African rate which was much lower than your
Wow.
non-African international rate. Just by producing my South African passport. And yes, this is one of the conversations we've been having. And of course, what you say, applies in other African countries as well. For those of us who have the, opportunity to visit other countries, as an African, you are charged less. As a local, you are charged less, than non-locals. We're having these conversations all the time in South Africa. And I think, in fact, COVID-19 has accelerated that discussion because everybody now suddenly realizes, hey, we've been complacent, because we've been having all these international tourists coming in, carrying hard currency, and, we have been happy to just focus on their needs. And, COVID-19 has actually shifted everybody's thinking. So you hear it from all the main tourism industry associations now, even those that are doing inbound, focusing on inbound tourism, also lending their voice saying, we need to deal with the pricing issue for the domestic travel. And quite frankly, and we are going to, continue to keep the spotlight on that, because the future of tourism in our country absolutely depends on that. This pandemic has shown us how fickle international travel can be, and how helpful domestic travel can be in times of crisis. But
well, we look forward to that, Septi. How long do you think before this is put in place so that we can start enjoying our beautiful country and really rev up local tourism in a big way?
Look, these are obviously decisions that need to be made by operators themselves. And the majority of them are private sector operators. So you can't really prescribe to them, you have to put the message across to them, and they have to make their own decisions. But I think, our key focus is then on public assets, as you mentioned, like national parks. Recognizing, of course, that, bodies like SANParks, which operate our national parks, are also self-financing entities. So they're operating almost like private sector entities, which is a good thing because they're not a burden on the fiscus. But at the same time, because they are such an important player in stimulating domestic travel, we're having these engagements, and I think they're listening, and I think they're engaging, and I think the conversations are actually pointing in a positive direction.
Well, we do look forward to that. Thank you indeed for raising these issues on behalf of South Africans. So what exactly is Tourism Month 2022? What is the theme? Is it mainly geared at the hospitality industry, or we as, private citizens, or do we also have a say? Is this information also then communicated to us, telling us this is what Tourism Month is all about? Is it about creating the awareness locally and internationally?
Yeah, so it's definitely about the traveling public. It's about, of course, the celebration of the role and contribution of tourism, also as a peace industry, by the way, not just something we enjoy. Tourism is a peace industry. It is the only industry that encourages, people-to-people contact. We are not an industry that builds walls. We are an industry that demolishes walls. So by celebrating Tourism Month, we're really encouraging people to step out and connect with fellow human beings in a spirit of peace. That's
wow, Septi, I've never looked at it from that point of view, but what a beautiful perspective. That's wonderful. And I think you need to, put up big billboards saying that tourism is a peace and loving industry. So that's really a wonderful take. What else can you tell us before we wrap up?
But and so we promote domestically now. Looking at it from the South African perspective, we're really, if you see, there are campaigns that are being run by South African tourism to promote the beauty of the country and encouraging people to travel and explore their own country. So that's really what Tourism Month is about. But also at the same time as we encourage people to travel, educate them a little bit about how to travel responsibly, because we don't want travel that's destructive to the environment and so on. We don't want travel that's exploitative. So we at the same time want to educate people about responsible travel, so that travel is an industry for change. When we travel, we touch people's lives, and we want to do so in a community's lives, and we want to do so in a responsible manner.
Absolutely. How wonderful. In closing, it's not only Tourism Awareness Month in South Africa. What's happening with the United Nations World Tourism Organization? How do we fit into that bigger picture?
Well, the UNWTO, of course, being the primary body for tourism in the UN system globally, is at the forefront of leading the observance of World Tourism Day, 27th of September, and running campaigns, engaging with global stakeholders about the recognition of tourism, about making things easier for the tourism industry to recover. So we are very much part of that system. So some of the messages that we convey domestically are messages that emanate from the UNWTO, because we want, as the tourism sector globally, to speak with one voice in highlighting the importance of tourism and the work that remains to be done in order to further unlock its potential to contribute to the global economy.
Septi Bukula, founder of Seeza Tourism Growth Network and acting chair of the TBC SA Tourism Growth and Transformation Committee. Thank you indeed for being with us on the show this morning. It's very encouraging. I feel all that much more positive having spoken with you this morning regarding local and international tourism, and just the fact that that you say that it's an industry of peace, and you are so right when you say that, and feel good and being good and just, encouraging people to take the time out, explore your beautiful, beautiful country and spread the peace and the love. Thank you for being on the show this morning. God bless.
Most welcome, man, and thank you for having me.
8:34 exactly, news and views right here on Salam Media. Razak Juma, the Minara Secretary General for the Minara Chamber, is standing by to talk with us, but right after the ad break.